I would like to call the July 29th, 2021 call board meeting to order at 1:03 p.m. Mr. Young, do you have any amendments for the agenda?
I do not, Madam Chair.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Holland? Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Motion approves unanimously. The agenda has been approved. At this time, I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss, deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent. Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Smith? Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. We are adjourned to executive session at 1:06 p.m. Motion was made by Tommy Gartrell, seconded by Steve Smith, to come out of executive session at 1:39 p.m. The vote was 5-0. No other action was taken. Do I hear a motion to approve the executive session minutes as read?
No motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the personnel action report as presented?
I get a motion.
Okay, Mr. Holland?
Second.
Mr. Smith? Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. The PAR is approved as presented. The approval of the MOU with Piedmont University and the Pickens County Board of Education. Mr. Young, would you give us some information on this MOU?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is another one of those MOUs that will allow our system to work with Piedmont this time to place student teachers from their program in our system. The board has already approved a number of these agreements this year, and I appreciate that because it gives us an opportunity to recruit future teachers. We're able to see them perform in the classroom and then recruit the more effective of these teachers. We get some really good recruits doing that. So I'm asking for approval of this MOU today.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the MOU with Piedmont University?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. Gartrell, thank you.
Second.
Second from Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion?
As an alumnus of Piedmont College, I'm glad to see that.
We like working with Piedmont.
Absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the approval of a contract with Northside Hospital for athletic trainers. Mr. Young, do you have some information on this request?
I do, Madam Chair. First, I'm going to have Mr. Wallace come up and speak. Mr. Wallace and Mr. Landrum put a tremendous amount of work into making what he's about to talk to you about a reality. We're very excited about it. But Mr. Wallace, would you talk to the board a little bit about what this entails?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Young. Board members, thanks for having me today. So we have many athletic activities going on campus, as y'all know, and Georgia High School Association, who is our governing body over these events, requires that you have a certified athletic trainer on campus for those events. And it's kind of a reciprocal agreement with the other schools. You go to their school, then your students are going to be treated by their athletic trainers. So many ways you can accomplish this. Luckily for us, we've had an on-site employee who's a certified athletic trainer for 15 or 16 years who has served us well and has done a great job. And he has taken a step back from that particular role, and so we found ourselves in need of those services and having someone to fulfill those duties. And so we started, of course, looking around and trying to figure out how we were going to solve this. And we were able to work an agreement out with Northside to provide someone that will be a full-time athletic trainer on our campus, that we will be able to determine their schedule and use them as needed, like an employee, but they, of course, have all the backing and support of a first-class, medical provider like Northside, and a lot of different, you saw the agreement, a lot of different things that come along with that, a lot of supports that come along with that, like Saturday clinics, and then they're going to offer physicals and some of the things that we've had in place before with some other providers. So I'm excited about it. I think our kids will be well taken care of and in good hands. We won't miss a beat. Mr. Rasco's done a superb job for our school and our kids, and we're grateful for his service. And he's going to help with the transition, of course, with us here as we get this selected, the person selected to come in is the right fit, and they're going to allow us to be involved in the process directly so we can get the right fit for our school. So I'm excited and really appreciate the help of Mr. Young, Mr. Landrum, and the folks at Northside Cherokee that have been instrumental in helping make this happen and walking through the process with us. And of course, the support of you guys to help finalize this today will be much appreciated to make this a reality. And I think it's going to be a great service for our kids, our student athletes at Pickens High School. So thank you for your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to say that I know Superintendent Young does the heavy lifting around here, but we have a lot of other people on staff that work behind the scenes to make so many of our programs come to fruition. And not just the principals, but a lot of other people. The principals also do quite a bit of that. And Mr. Landrum, he has been very influential and very helpful in getting, for example, our nursing program with our nearby college with Reinhardt in place, and this and other things as well. And we owe him a great amount of debt too. So I thank you all. We're all a team. We work together, and it's wonderful to see these things come about. So I appreciate that, Mr. Willis. Do I have a motion to approve the contract with Northside Hospital for athletic trainers?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Gartrell and Mr. Holland. Yeah, Mr. Gartrell is very involved in our sports program. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a quick comment.
Certainly.
Okay.
Okay. Certainly, we have a comment.
I'm glad there will be no interruption in service, and I want to just do a little shout out to Tom Raskin again. I hate to see him leaving this role, but I'm glad he'll still be in the system. I've had the opportunity to shadow him for 4 years. I was in high school, and he is top-notch, did a great job serving our students for a very long time in that role. So appreciate his long years of service.
Thank you, Mr. Green. He's participating with us by phone. I may not have mentioned that earlier. But Mr. Green, I appreciate you adding that, and I apologize for not adding that to my comments, but thank you for including that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. All right, the next item is the approval of agreement with Sequoia Regional Library. Mr. Young, would you explain what this agreement involves?
Yes, ma'am. I'm excited. This is another one I'm excited to bring to the board today. This agreement is going to give our students access to the resources of the Sequoia Regional Library System, including physical materials as well as online educational and literary materials. Sequoia Regional Library System will not fine students for late materials either, which is an added benefit. We will use an opt-in process with these students, so the parents will be able to control whether or not their child participates, but this will give our students access to that full range of additional educational materials that Sequoia has to offer. I'd also like to say that Anita was instrumental in putting this agreement together with Sequoia and seeing it through, so a big shout out to her, and our students are truly going to benefit from this. So I'm going to ask the board for approval of this agreement.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this is the sports program that I participate in with the Sequoia Regional Library.
It would be the reading.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a power reader. Okay, thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve the agreement with Sequoia Regional Library? I'll make the motion.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay. Finley and Gartrell. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Passes unanimously. Our next item is the approval of the FY22 amended tentative budget. I believe Ms. Smith may have some information for us on that item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we have proposed for tonight, when we originally did the tentative approval of the FY22 budget, we had not received approval for our art funds for FY22 from the state at that time. We have now received that approval. What you are seeing, the detail that's attached is very specific and is what it was submitted to the state with the function code, object, proposed amount. What we budget for 22 is only for 22, so this is not the entire grant, but those are our directions. We can only budget 1 year at a time in this budget. You can see the way this is, you're required to say things like, you'll see supplemental learning. There are definitions you have to go through and define each item and say, it falls under this category, and then in parentheses, remediation opportunities. That is another thing we have to track. That 20% of this grant at a minimum must be spent on remediation effort. So those things in bold there.
Ms. Smith, which supporting document are you
sorry.
operating off of?
If you will pull up,
Turn around.
it's the one on the right.
Art budget
Yes.
729.
There you go. You're gonna have to blow that up a lot bigger if anybody out here wants to see it. This is the required state format, and I pulled this straight out of the consolidated application where we submit it, and it was approved in this format. But in bold, you'll see, like I said, supplemental learning and then remediation opportunities. You'll see each item has a type of definition. These are state-defined drop-downs that you must pick from. There was a lot of conversation. Ms. Holloway, before she retired in June, there were quite a few requirements before we could even get to the point where you submitted a budget. There are documents that had to be submitted, set plans about remediation. Meetings had to be held where you got public input. There was a brainstorming list that was available to all our principals, directors, different departments where they could throw ideas out. Then we have discussed them in leadership meetings to determine what needed to be included in this budget, what was allowable. Then Ms. Holloway, as Federal Programs Director, went through and vetted those items with our program specialist at the state to see which items at this point we think would be applicable, and they kind of give you a nod before you even get to the point where you're entering all this data and requesting it. Because if you go ahead and get their input from the state and they're going, that's really not going to fight, really doesn't meet the intent of the grant, they'll just kick it back and say, you need a revision. So a lot of effort went in by Ms. Holloway and leadership team, principals, departments in every area, because almost every area of the school system is eligible in some way, shape, form, or fashion for funds, anything that had to do with an effect from COVID. So this is what has been approved for 22 at this time. If we decide we don't want to do something, if we need to change the scope of something, we have to go back through this process and request a change and have to explain why. But at this time, this is what is approved. We would like to add this to the tentative budget. We wanted to do this before we got to final approval, so that when we get to final approval, this is included. We are transparent with the public that this is part of our budget for 22. On the, let's go to the other, it's going to say FY22 amended tentative budget is top left. Now, this is the state format you typically see for our budget request. The columns that have bold italics are the items that were changed. In the revenue section, you'll see federal sources under special revenue has increased by the amount of $1,856,394. The expenditures also are in bold italics, any area that had a change. So those are the changes to the budget. It did not affect general fund, Fund 150, or capital projects or debt service whatsoever. It is only special revenue. Do y'all have questions? The third document out there is just a total summary of all special revenue, just so you can see all of the whole picture. It might be more information than you needed, but I did include it also. Most of the other grants you see there are still in a preliminary stage. We do not have finalized numbers for any grant but other than CARES right now. Y'all have questions?
Any questions, Tucker?
No, I'm good. I reviewed all the ones. Thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the FY22 amended tentative budget?
I'll get approved.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Holland. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is approval of surplus. Do I have a motion to approve the surplus submitted by Jasper Middle School Media Center, Pickens Junior High School, and the Special Education Department?
I'll get a motion.
Mr. Holland?
Second.
Mr. Smith?
Y'all slowed down, what's the deal?
I was going to say, yeah. They're usually Johnny on the spot. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Here's the one everybody's going to jump on.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
The next item on our agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Gartrell, thank you.
Second.
And Mr. Smith is seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, 5-0. We are adjourned at 1:58 p.m. Thank you all.